What is going on? Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So if you missed the front bumper build we did for the green Raptor line truck, I'll have it linked up in the corner. It is a must-see. The bumper turned out amazing, really liking how it looks, but now we need something for the back. So we're gonna get started on a rear bumper for this thing. Like always, we're getting the cardboard. We're gonna build the bumper out of cardboard first, then we'll make it out of steel. And I wanna integrate a hitch into it as well. So this one is gonna be built out of 3/16 and 1/4 inch plate, and then I just have one of those receivers that we're gonna weld in and brace that all up, make it beefy, make it work, and make it look good. So let's get to work with some cardboard. Well, this is what I've got brewed up so far. So we got it angled up about 2 inches up and cap the ends. That's going to angle in, and it's just going to be a plate, basically a flat plate in the center here for the license plate to bolt onto, and then the hitch is going to come right off the bottom of that. So that looks all pretty good. You got to notch this out to clear that little corner. So it's pretty close to the same angle as kind of how that bed angles in. So kind of want to follow the body lines a little bit. So we're going to do something like this. We can, I guess, start making it out of steel. We can make these two sides, and then the center, I'll probably just make it out of a 1/4 inch plate, tack that in place. We got one piece all marked out, so let's cut this out. We're going to be using that Eastwood saw as much as we can. I haven't actually tried it on 3/16. It does cut 1/4 inch plate, but it goes pretty slow. But we'll see how it does on 3/16. So what I'm going to do now is make the cuts to be able to bend the plate. So instead of using a cutoff wheel, I thought I would try to use this Eastwood saw. So I got the depth set a little over halfway through 3/16. I just took a little piece of plate here, a little scrap, and matched it up about just a little over halfway through. And then I clamped on this guide here. So you just got to measure from the edge of the blade to the edge of this guide on the saw, and then get a nice straight piece of steel, clamp it in place, and then I just used a pair of calipers to measure the distance from the line where I need to cut to the edge of that plate that's clamped on there. So we're gonna try it out. I haven't tried it with this saw before, so if it does work, it's gonna be a lot quicker and a lot straighter with having the guide on here. Get a nice, clean, straight cut. There we go, guys. So that cut took about 1/8 of the time as a cutoff wheel. And the nice thing about it is you can set the depth of the cut. With a cutoff wheel, you're kind of guessing, so it's probably gonna take a couple of test tries to get the depth right, but that should be pretty close there. It's a little over halfway, and the good thing is just a nice, clean, straight cut, so the bend is gonna look perfect. So let's get this clamped on for this cut. We'll cut that and we'll see how well it bends with the depth that we cut it. All right, guys, I got that bent. It's still not all the way. We're gonna go about 60 degrees on this bend here, but you can see the gap is closed up. So we're gonna have to open that back up with the cutoff wheel. Obviously we can't get back in there with the Eastwood saw, so we'll just run along it, open it back up to be able to bend it more. And then this one's gonna be even tougher because that's a 90-degree bend. So we're gonna have to cut this one deeper, and then the same thing, just keep going, bend it, open it up, bend it, open it up. Well, we got the first one bent up and turned out perfect. All the angles line up, so you can see that angle there. There's a plate that's gonna run down that, and then a plate that's gonna run down that side as well. So you can see angles are all lining up good. So let's cut the other one out and bend it, and then we'll have to make the center plate, basically, that's gonna run on the back side of this, and we can tack all that together, get that all straightened out. Well, this is what we got brewed up so far. So I still got to cut the caps for the inside here, and then I'm going to cap the end, but I think before I do that, I'm going to put a bead inside here just to make sure that's fully welded. Alright, I decided to plate along the top of this main plate here because there was a little bit of flex in this plate, so I wanted to strengthen it up with basically a gusset right here. So we're going to tack that in place, and then I got to cut one more of these, but now I got to shorten it because obviously got a 1/4 inch here. So we'll have to cut a 1/4 inch out of this, and then we'll get these in there, and then we should be pretty much good with this section here. All right, we got all these plates cut, so we got this main 1/4 inch run there, and then we got these 2 caps for the inside here, and then I also cut some of these plates here, and I'll show you, they're for the back side. I'll show you where these are going to go. So I'm going to plate kind of down at a 45 from the inside here, something like that, and that'll give it a lot of strength and kind of box in this whole area. And I know some of you guys are going to stop and comment right now saying this isn't going to be strong enough with the hitch because the bumper mounts to the frame are going to be out here, so it's a lot of leverage in between here. But don't worry, I am going to integrate the hitch into this main plate here, and then I'm also going to brace from the hitch up to the mount, so it's going to be very sturdy. Before we tack any of these plates in place, I'm going to coat the inside of this where I'm going to be boxing it in. We're going to coat that with some zinc weld through primer just to make sure that it's coated and not going to have any rust issues, because once we tack these in place, there's no way to get inside there. And then we're also going to have to weld these joints out, so when we cover it, there's actually, these are welded in. One more quick tip for you guys. So if you got a flat table, clamp the whole bumper to the table and then weld it, and then let it completely cool down before you pull the clamps off, and it should stay nice and straight. It's one thing with welding is seems like no matter what you do, something always moves. So we're going to take all the precautions. I got clamped here, here, and then 2 on that side as well, and this side also has a plate on it, so just to make sure the bumper does not move. All right, we're all tacked together, so I just want to go real quick and talk about fit up. So when you guys are fitting this stuff up, you want to leave, you know, this gap here. You want to leave an angle and a little edge for the weld to sit into. I know I've said it multiple times, but it really makes such a huge difference in strength, and it's just a lot easier to weld as well. There's somewhere for the weld to go. So even on this side, I beveled that, I beveled that. The edge of this plate was a little bit rounded. This is the side I didn't cut, but I still left just a little bit of a gap there. And then one other thing I just did is went through, after you tack it all, you can go around with a wire brush and brush off all that extra primer that's on the outside, because it's really not fun to weld over. It really stinks, and it just welds better without it. So I'm going to go around one more time, make sure I get what I can off for the primer, just to make sure I get a nice clean weld. But first, before I weld this thing fully together, I want to figure out the mounts. So we have to find a way to get the bumper in place on the truck and held there in order to kind of map out our mounts for it. So I'm going to work on that, figure out how I can get it on the truck and in place. All right, we got the bumper kind of somewhat up in place. I can't get it as far forward as I want because it's hitting the tailgate, but it's up there and looking good. So I'm working on the mounts, and we got a dilemma. I really wasn't wanting to cut into the back of the bed here, but I really think I'm gonna have to, because with this bumper, it's sitting a lot higher than the factory bumper. So even to get a plate bent up and through here, it's not gonna be very thick, so it's not gonna be that strong. So what I think I'm gonna do is just make a cut in this bed right here, just in the bottom, and I'll be able to run just a straight mount straight from the frame and tie right into the bumper. That's gonna be the easiest way, and honestly the strongest way. That mount's gonna be a lot stronger being straight rather than coming dipping all the way around. That's a lot more leverage on the mount itself. So I think that's what we're gonna do. There we go, guys. Mounts are welded into the bumper. We just got one weld. I'm gonna plate more on that mount onto the bumper, but it is sitting on its own weight, looking really good. Other than one thing that's bugging me is it's a little bit too wide, I think. So I may trim this back about 1 inch, and I don't know, it lines up when you look at it from down like right here, but when you're up here, it looks like it's sticking way out. So I think I may trim down the edges a little bit, suck those in. But other than that, looking really good. Really liking the design and the look of this thing. So next thing we really have to do is figure out the hitch. So I haven't decided yet if I am going to mount it up in here behind the plate or down here. I feel like down here is kind of just hanging down. I've seen people do kind of a hidden hitch right up here. So I may do that. I don't know, I'm gonna mess around with it a little bit. All right, we took about 1 inch off of this side. So here is the side I cut versus the uncut side. So very happy with that, looking a lot better. And then I'm gonna change that gusset or the end cap a little bit. So I'm gonna run it all the way down. And that kind of completes the end of the bumper, makes it look a lot better. So let's pull this thing back off and cut this side. We can cut these plates for the end, get those tacked in place, and then I want to start working on the hitch, get that all figured out. All right, now I'm working on getting these mounts all beefed up. So I cut a plate to run to basically gusset the entire bumper here, even though it's gusseted there and there. Wanted another one and then another gusset there. So that'll help keep the leverage off the side to side movement. And then what I'm gonna do with the hitch is it's gonna come up here and then I'm gonna brace up into this mount here. So this setup should be very, very strong. And also another mount I'm gonna weld on the bottom of here and bolt to the bottom of the frame. So I just wanted this thing beefy. I want it to last, and I don't want to worry about if someone ever wants to pull a trailer. I don't want to have to worry about the bumper and the hitch setup not being strong enough. So this is definitely gonna do the job. All right, I decided I'm going to mount the hitch inside of this plate. For one, it'll give it a lot of strength, and for two, it won't be hanging down and catching on stuff if you're out wheeling. So we're gonna cut this out, slide it all the way through, flush like that. We'll leave this lip out, about just like that, and then we'll have to make some sort of a hinge bracket for the license plate to mount on. There we go, got the hitch support braces right here tacked in place. So you can see this thing is gonna be pretty stout. So last thing we gotta do real quick is throw it back on the truck, measure out where we need to put these angle brackets here to mount to the bottom of the frame, and make sure everything clears. So basically how I designed this is you slide it up at an angle and you can throw the back bolts in and it clears the bed just fine. So you throw the back bolt in on both sides and then you pivot the whole bumper up and put the front bolts in, and it actually works pretty good. I could do it by myself. Bumper's on, clearing everything. I'll show you the hitch. So you can see there's plenty of clearance with the hitch. It's about a 1/2 inch below the bottom of the bed there. So right here on the bottom of the frame is where I'm gonna weld on a plate at a 90 from the main mount, bolt it through here, and that should give it some strength too. All right, we got some more plates ready. So these are gonna weld onto the mounts and bolt through the frame. And I'm sure if you have a Toyota, you know these holes are gigantic in the frame. So I basically built these plates as a big washer. So it's basically gonna clamp the frame in between these 2 1/4 inch plates. So that's gonna give it obviously a lot more strength. So we're gonna bolt this on. We'll tack these onto the bumper and then we'll pull the bumper off and we can finally start welding this thing together. So here's a little better look at these mounts. So not only is that another mounting point to the actual frame, but having a plate this way is going to stiffen up the main run of this mount as well. So now we can just start welding this thing together. So some of this is not even gonna need to be braced. Like all this down here, there's so much bracing in here, so much bracing with these mounts and the hitch, that a lot of this bumper can just be freely welded, and it really shouldn't move because there's so much bracing going on. So let's get to work welding this thing together. Alright guys, making some progress on the welding. So got most of these mounts all burned in. Everything's looking pretty good. I did brace these 90s because I know that will pull. So we braced those up. But I did have to clamp it to the table. I noticed the bumper starting to kind of warp this way. So we got it clamped down, and when I finish welding it, it may pull back, it may not, but it's not that bad. You won't really even notice it, so not a big deal. And one other thing is, everywhere that I put the weld through primer, I am having issues with welding it. So you can see the splatter, and I know in one of the clips in the video you can see it kind of just blow up. So that's why there's so many starts and stops. It scares the crap out of me, so I stop, and it's just not welding that great. Even though, as you can see, I literally ground off all the primer. There's no primer, but there's primer on the back side of here, and I think it's just pulling back. When I'm welding, it's pulling back into the puddle and creating some issues. But either way, it's still welding. It is on the front side here where I had the primer on one of the welds that you're going to be able to see. It was doing the same thing, so I'm kind of bummed about that. You can see, obviously, I can lay a bead, but where the primer is, it's just not wanting to weld that great. So it is what it is. I'll have to maybe find a different weld through primer. What I picked up was this stuff from Martin Senior. It's from Napa. But it's just zinc weld through primer, and like I said, I even ground it off. So I know the 3M brand and the SEM brand are a lot better. I just didn't have time to run all the way downtown to the only paint store close to me and get any. So it is what it is. I think I'm going to try to clean it up a little bit better, see if I can get into these cracks at all to get any more primer out. And we're just going to have to deal with it. I'm not going to go and tear the thing apart. But either way, we got to weld these joints here, and then obviously all this here, and there's a little bit more on the front side. You're not gonna be able to see it, but up in here, there's a little bit of welding. There we go, we got all these joints sanded down or ground down, looking really good. So all these lines turned out nice and straight. So one last thing I gotta do before we end this video is make some little hooks or something to hook chains to for if you're hauling a trailer. All right, so what I want to do for the little hooks is I want it out of the way, for one, for putting the pin in, and I didn't want anything hanging down. So I think what I'm going to do is just take I got these steel rods. I'm going to weld them at an angle like that, and that will stay out of the way of the pin, and it's kind of tucked up in here so you won't be able to see it, nothing hanging down. So let's tack these in place. We're doing one on each side like that. There we go, we got that welded in place, so you can see there's still plenty of room to get the hitch pin in and out. I'll give you guys one last look at the bumper before I let you go. So I think it turned out amazing. The hitch is definitely going to be stout. As you can see, it's all braced up everywhere. So shouldn't be a problem with that. So definitely stay tuned for the next video. We got to build that flipping license plate mount because the license plate is going to cover that hitch. So we're going to have to build some sort of a hinge system so that the license plate can flip up when you want to put a receiver in. So we got to do that. We got to clean it up, prime it, and shoot it with the Raptor liner. And just like the front bumper, guys, if you want to build one of these, I have made a set of templates and plans for it. Same deal. Everything is life drawn up to size, up to scale. So you just trace it onto your steel and you cut it. So this bumper is mainly made out of 3/16 and all the mounts, all the gussets, everything is 1/4 inch. So very stout. It is heavier than the front, but I needed it stout because we integrated that hitch into the bumper, so it's got to be strong. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Go smash that thumbs up button, drop a comment down, let me know what you think of the bumper. Thanks for watching the video, guys. We'll see you in the next one.